All right, let's jump right in. We're going to look at this really fascinating structure that's kind of hidden in plain sight in the Gospel of John. It's like a divine timetable, and once you see it, I'm telling you, it changes how the entire story reads. So as you go through the Gospel of John, you might notice this recurring, almost cryptic theme. Jesus keeps talking about his time or his hour, but it's always, something that's coming later. It builds this incredible suspense, and you can't help but wonder, what on earth is he waiting for? And what's so cool is that this language creates a really clear pattern. The whole narrative is basically split into two big phases. For most of his public work, the constant refrain is, "My hour has not yet come." Then boom, at one specific moment, the switch flips and he says, "The hour has come." This massive shift from not yet to now, well, that's the key to this whole hidden timetable.
Okay, so first, let's dig into that period of waiting. This time of not yet. What was going on during this phase, and why was it so critical that the timing be absolutely perfect?
Well, this not yet phase is really a time of divine protection. It's amazing when you see it. The text points out that several times the authorities actually tried to arrest him, but they just couldn't. It's like they were physically unable to. And why? John tells us plainly, because his hour had not yet come. He was moving on God's schedule, and until that schedule gave the green light, he was completely untouchable.
So, after all that waiting and all that divine protection, we finally get this huge, dramatic turning point. Let's look at the exact moment where Jesus himself announces that the wait is officially over.
And this is it. This is the moment. Right here in John chapter 12, Jesus makes the declaration, "The hour has come." But look at what he calls it. It's the time for the Son of Man to be glorified. So this isn't just about the clock finally hitting zero, it's about a very specific purpose about to be fulfilled.
So this is absolutely crucial. What does glorified even mean here? In John's Gospel, it's not just one thing. It's actually presented as a single, continuous, upward journey that includes three inseparable events: his death on the cross, his resurrection from the tomb, and his ascension back to the Father. It's one grand, sweeping act of redemption. And he gives this brilliant illustration to explain the logic. He uses this little metaphor from farming to show why his death is actually part of his glory. Just like a seed has to be buried in the ground and essentially die to produce a whole plant full of fruit, his death was the necessary step to bring about this huge harvest of new life. So death wasn't the end of the mission, it was the engine that powered it.
But wait, it gets even more intricate, because beyond this main pattern of not yet and now, there's another, deeper theological layer woven into all these sayings about time. Scholars often call it the already but not yet.
Jesus introduces this kind of paradox. He says things like, "The hour is coming and is now here." So what does that mean? He's describing a new reality where some parts of God's future promises are actually breaking into the present, right now, through his work, even while other parts are still waiting for a future fulfillment. Let's take his conversation with the Samaritan woman as a perfect example. The not yet part is the future, when worship won't be centered in a physical place like Jerusalem anymore. But the already part is that true, authentic worship in spirit and truth is available right now to anyone, anywhere who comes to God through him. It's like a piece of the future has arrived early.
And we see the exact same pattern when he talks about new life. The not yet is the future physical resurrection of everyone at the end of time. But the already is the spiritual resurrection that can happen right now. The very moment someone believes in him, they pass from a state of spiritual death to spiritual life. Again, a future promise becomes a present-day reality.
So when you start piecing all of these time sayings together, it becomes crystal clear that they aren't just random scattered comments. They form a really coherent and intentional framework for the entire book.
This timetable pretty much maps out the whole story. It covers that initial period of protection, the big turning point of his glorification, and even these complex already but not yet realities of worship and life. And get this, it even extends beyond his own life on earth to predict a future hour when his followers would face their own trials. It all unfolds according to a divine schedule.
So, what's the big takeaway from all this? Well, once you see this timetable, the Gospel of John transforms from just a sequence of events into a profound theological drama. It powerfully suggests that nothing happened by chance. Every single moment, every delay, and every action was part of a meticulously planned divine purpose. It reveals a grand design at work from the very first page all the way to the last.